So, all you scared to death Negroes, just sit down. Don't you come out to defend our enemy. You sit down and you shut up and tell your master to come on out and deal with it.
You all get ready because we're going to hit a hot topic. Sister Mecca?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Before I introduce our next presenter, I would like to recite a quote by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from Message to the Black Man. It states, "We must educate ourselves and our children into the rich power of knowledge, which has elevated every people who have sought and used it. We must give the benefit of our knowledge to the elevation of our own people." Let me introduce you to Sister Gabrielle Muhammad. Sister Gabrielle Muhammad has been a registered member of the Nation of Islam for 10 years. She serves as a lieutenant at Muhammad Mosque number 65 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Sister Gabrielle is a graduate of Muhammad University of Islam in Baton Rouge, and she received her Bachelor of Science degree in Mathematics and Physics with a minor in education from Southern University and A&M College. Sister Gabrielle has presented multiple times at the Savior's Day Ministry of Education workshops and other Ministry of Education events. Currently, Sister Gabrielle works as a tutor for the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center in Baton Rouge and is a first-year law student at Southern University Law Center. Please welcome Sister Gabrielle Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. You got me excited about myself. I'm like, who is that sister? I would like to open up the name of Allah to be merciful. I bear witness that there's no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. And I would like to thank the sisters for inviting me to this summit, because anytime I get a chance to give back to my nation, I jump at it. So you really gave me that inspiration, just to power me through this next first year of law school. I have to go in on a win. So this is definitely my win right here. But I want to get right into it, and I want to know if I could unmute the students, because I kind of want to interact with them, because that's with my teaching background. That's how I said a quiet classroom is an unlearning classroom. So when you speak back to me, like that gives me the confidence that I'm actually saying something. So first question is, how many of you all in this room this is your first year going to college? You're going out of high school and into college. Let me see if I can see everybody. Let me see by raise of hands I'll do this by raise of hands. Who is their first year going to college? Okay, so most people that I see so far, they've already been in college. Okay, praise be to Allah. Well, okay, good. So that's one thing, but we know this time going back to college is going to be a little bit different, right? It's not the same because of a little something called C-19, right? So that's going to kind of play into some of our decisions about going back to college. So, and this is going to introduce the concept of virtual learning, which we all were familiar with. And kind of this is a virtual environment right here. So we're kind of used to what it is, right? But let's get into it and see how that's going to affect us when we're going to college. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have a little PowerPoint for you all. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, praise be to Allah. So first, I want to get into a little bit about my educational experience, because the thing about me is that I have both experience as a student and as a teacher. So this is kind of give you a background of some of the information I'm going to be giving you. So one, I went to University of Islam, and while I was there, I was actually a student teacher myself. So while I was attending, I was teaching younger students Arabic and drill, and I also assisted with a lot of their other courses. And also, believe it or not, over 10 years ago, we were actually doing online education back then at Muhammad University of Islam in Baton Rouge. And so we actually had a sociology class via Skype at that time with Sister Dr. Tony Muhammad, which I heard she was in you all's previous summit. And while I was at Southern University, I was an Arabic tutor there as well. So I kind of carry that Arabic practice, which leads up to the next thing, which was I actually worked with Brother Sultan Muhammad on the Islamic sciences courses. If you all have ever seen those or taken those, I actually helped with those courses, including the Arabic course, the prayer course, and the Ramadan readiness course, which are also online education. So we've been kind of doing online education in the Nation of Islam. We were way ahead of the Corona curve because we were already on there, right? So as well, I worked with the Collective 9 courses, which was with Brother Troy Muhammad in Chicago. Well, no, excuse me, Brother Troy X in Chicago. And I taught an online physics course as well. And with the Supreme Wisdom Educational Center, which I work with right now, I was actually a student first, and then I turned right back around and became a teacher in the Supreme Wisdom Curriculum course, which is actually a course designed for teachers on teaching how to teach from the Supreme Wisdom. And also, I tutor there as well, and I tutor all ages, all subjects. But again, this is more distance learning and virtual learning. And currently, as a student, switching back to that student seat, I'm currently in law school, but I just finished a pre-law program that was completely online. And I have some good advice for you that is very current from that class. And I actually, in the fall, will be doing a hybrid, most likely of online and in-person education, which is most likely what we will all be experiencing. So when it comes to the campus environment, what are some of the pros and cons, right? Because all of us are like, ooh, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that campus thing because we're like, it's going to be hard, it's going to be this and that. But before we totally rule out the on-campus environment, let's look at some of the benefits. So the pros of on-campus education is socialization and network. Because one of the things with the online platform is that we really don't get to get really personal with people, like our friends, that's what we all want, we all miss because of this post-corona world, that social interaction with friends. And we also need to think about socialization, but also networking, because when you're there, you're presenting yourself in front of your professors, right? And even your other classmates, they will be professionals in the future, right? So these are your future colleagues. So you get a chance to make those connections when you're on campus and in person. Another pro is the academic environment. And that's one of the things about the on campus, that it provides that sense of professionalism, right? We feel more ready to learn and excited to learn when we get in that environment with the books and the desk and things like that. It kind of gives us that seriousness of purpose that we need. Well, I'm speaking for myself because sometimes if I don't have that environment, I kind of conform to my environment. So that academic environment actually helps us learn. Another one is our interactions with our professors, because that interaction with your professor, we all know that sometimes you might end up on a bubble, right? You're in between, you're like 89%, right? And you're 1% away from the 90% A. And so if you sit in the front class and you're the one always asking questions, your teacher might give you that bump. And so that's one thing you get from that in-person interaction. You get to develop those relationships with people that will benefit you. And lastly, we have the on-campus resource. So on-campus resources includes libraries. Because some of us don't think about that, but when we pay our tuition, we pay for access to those libraries, which we can use as study areas, which we can use for research. Those things we pay for in our tuition. Also, you have academic counseling, and you also have mental counseling that, again, you pay for this with your tuition, as well as the infirmary. Because now we're thinking about COVID-19, right? If you cough, you can actually go to the infirmary at your school and it's paid for in your tuition. You don't have to come out of your own insurance as opposed to when you're at home. Now the cons. COVID-19, right? That's what everybody's con is. They're like, it's COVID-19. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to campus. It's it. That's all. Put me online. Put me in a virtual environment. Let's go. But another thing is distractions, right? So even though with all that socialization we're doing, which is good for our mental health and our spiritual health, right, to interact with other human beings, we get a lot of distractions, right? So we have those girls and those boys that we shouldn't be dealing with, right? We're there for education. but those provide distractions as well as just wanting to hang with your friends because you're in person, you want to chit chat with them, you want to talk to them, and sometimes they can distract us from why we're actually at school. Another thing is that these campuses are really not Muslim-friendly environments. So if you're serious about keeping your Islam, a campus is not a conducive place for that, right? And also a big one, a con about going in person is commuting and parking. We don't realize how much time that we spend commuting and parking that we can actually spend studying, right? Or even having a little bit of free time or a little bit of extra sleep time with that commuting and parking. So these are one of the cons of going in person. And also poor eating choices, right? On campus, we've all heard of the freshman 15.
Uh-huh.
Right, the freshman 15, because all they have is fast food restaurants and things like that, and we could get pulled into eating out of the vending machine. I know that was my thing. I didn't have a car, so I was on campus for 12 hours a day, and I'm like, get me the vending machine. Like even the purple Skittles out of the vending machine was the best. I'm telling myself, okay, all right. But these are some of the things that we need to weigh when we're thinking about the campus environment, and not just COVID-19, but even when COVID-19 goes away, inshallah, these will still be things that you have to deal with and weigh. Okay, so virtual learning, and what does it look like? And as I said earlier, this is one example of what virtual learning looks like. And this is a long step from where it came from, but this actually is virtual learning. So as a definition, virtual learning is distance learning conducted in a virtual learning environment with electronic study content designed for self-paced, which we call asynchronous. So this is when you have assignments and you do it on your own time, or live web conferences, which is synchronous, which is what we're doing right now, which is online teaching and tutoring. And so most likely, like I said, when you go back to campus, and I'm speaking from my personal experience, what you're most likely going to experience is a hybrid. So you're going to have some classes that might be totally online, and then you might have some classes that are on campus, if not all online. So this online feature is something different that we really never dealt with. And so we have to look at some of the things that we have to watch out for when we're getting into this new type of learning environment. So some of the pros of virtual learning is a relaxed learning environment. Most likely when we're in classes, we're going to be at our homes, we're going to be at, maybe somewhere that wherever we are, we don't have to really, again, conform to that professional environment, right? So you get a more relaxed learning environment. Some people who have social anxiety, this might be the perfect place for them, where they don't have to sit in a classroom full of people, they don't have to compare themselves to other people, and they can feel more secure about themselves. Optional locations. So with virtual learning, you don't have to be at your home, or you don't have to be at school. You can be anywhere in the world, and your access to your class is through the internet. Because right now, I live in Baton Rouge, but right now I'm actually in Mississippi. And that's one of the benefits of virtual learning. So with virtual learning, if you want to visit your parents' house, or if it's a natural disaster, because that's something that happens, you might have to cancel school, but with virtual learning, you can learn from anywhere. More time. You remember that I talked about the commute and parking? If you ever drive on campus, you know that takes up most of your day. And usually when you're commuting, it's during rush hour time. So that's in the mornings and in the evenings. So you actually have more time allocated to studying and sleep, right? And free time so you can unwind. Open book assessments. So with virtual learning, a professor cannot give you a test and know for sure that you're not using your book. So most of your tests, that's a real big bonus, are going to be open book test assessments. Okay. And this is what I call the mullet outfits. Anybody know what a mullet is? Let me see if I can raise a hand. Anybody know what a mullet is?
I don't. What's a mullet?
A mullet is a hairstyle, right? And when it came out, I think in the 80s, they said it's business up front and party in the back. So somebody might have a short hairstyle in the front and then it's really long in the back. That's what a mullet is. And so I call it a mullet outfit because when you're in these virtual learning environments, usually you're only going to be seen from the waist up, right? So you don't have to get fully dressed. And I know as college students, you're thinking like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. I don't have to travel. I can be in my pajamas or things like that. I wouldn't recommend pajamas, but like I said, if you're going to do it, do the mullet outfit. Keep it professional from the waist up, and then you can do whatever you want from the waist down. Okay? And another thing about, excuse me, I'm going too fast. And another thing about virtual learning is you also have distractions, but it's a little bit different type of distraction, right? Because one thing that could distract you, as Sister said, you can have your children at home. So this is going back to that academic environment. This goes directly against that academic environment. Say, for instance, you're set up for your virtual learning experience in your bedroom. And so while you're trying to pay attention to the professor, you're looking at your nice, comfy, king size bed, your California king with your, with your plush pillows, and you're like, man, I could be sleeping right now. And while you're thinking about the bed, you're missing the whole lecture. Or while you have children in the background running, or if you didn't clean up that day, right? You have the environment that's affecting your mental ability. And so that's one thing that you miss with the virtual learning environment. And it'll be on you to create a space wherever you're going to be learning to get that academic feel, to get you in the right mindset of learning. So I don't advise just wake up, open the laptop, and then I'm learning. No, you should make an environment that reflects your seriousness of purpose. And as well as a con, that's personal interactions. Like I was saying with your professors are going to have a hard time noticing you, right? When you're on that bubble, if you don't make the effort to speak out in class, you can actually get passed up. And that's a big thing that I learned in my recent experience, is that when you're in a virtual environment, you actually have to work harder. It's not all easy just because you get to stay home, but you actually have to put extra effort into your learning experience. So when you have a personal interaction, also in a classroom environment, you learn from the questions other students ask, right? And so if everybody's in this virtual environment and are laid back, nobody's asking questions, you're not getting that chance to learn from your colleagues. So you have to make more effort to get that personal interaction that you need to learn. Another con, poor connectivity. So if you're going to be engaged in virtual learning, you have to make sure you have proper connectivity to the internet. Because if you're in a class and you have poor connection, if the professor is breaking up and you can't hear them, you're going to miss that lesson for that day, right? And so if your connection is poor, or if the professor's connection is poor, you're not going to be able to take all that you need out of their learning environment. So if you're going to be doing virtual learning, you have to make sure you are setting up in a place that has good connectivity, or you'll miss that lesson. Required technology and software. So with the virtual learning environment, because everything is different from the way you've done it, you might have been able to, do an assignment and then turn it into the professor when you get back to class that day. But now with everything being virtual, it's on you to make sure you have the required technology and software. So you might have to come out of pocket for software that the professor requires for you to have for their assignments. So everything is not just going to be given to you up front, but again, you have to make the effort to make sure you have proper technology, which might actually cost you more money. More work. Okay, so this is the thing with teachers. A lot of times they have syllabi and lesson plans that they've been working on for 15 years. But now, because of Corona and everything having to go to the virtual environment, they had to do all their work on the front end to make sure the lesson was convenient for you. So a lot of times as a teacher, because they're thinking in their mind, oh, my student doesn't have to commute, my student doesn't have to park, my student is staying home in this relaxed environment. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give them more work because I know that they have more time. So again, a virtual environment does not mean an easier environment. It's just different. And that's what I want to harp on. So when we're going back to school and we're saying, do we want to go virtual or do we want to go on campus? We shouldn't just think, I want to go virtual just because it's easier. We should just understand that it's different. You still want to pick what's works for you and what's more convenient for you, but don't use virtual as an excuse to slack, okay? And so lastly, I want to end out this this presentation on a lighter note, because now we know that when we're going back to school, no matter what, we have to maintain that seriousness of purpose. But I also want to say, while we're going to school, make sure you enjoy yourself. So this last slide, I just want to show some pictures of my different experiences while I was in college, because college is a very fun experience, and it doesn't matter if you're going to be going online. Make sure you get the best out of your experience that you want, because when Sister Audrey was talking about, having that motivation, if you don't make sure you enjoy yourself on the way, you're not going to be motivated to finish. And when you get out of school, that's the same attitude you want to carry when you get into your career. You want to make sure you're enjoying yourself and finding fulfillment so you can have that stick-to-itiveness. And so what I have here is actually a couple of pictures of some traveling that I did while I was actually in school, and some of it's not. But I want to just share a little bit something more about myself. So if anybody was paying attention, they're like, okay, so Sister Gabrielle has a bachelor's degree in science and mathematics, right? And then now she's going to law school. Like, what is she doing? She's all over the place. But I just want to share that I was, as growing up, going to Muqaddim University this month, I was very inspired by the teachings, supreme wisdom, the lessons that I really kind of modeled my life outlook on that. So in my mind, I was thinking, Master Fard Muhammad, he traveled the whole world before he came and helped us. And so I was thinking, I want to be like Master Fard Muhammad. He spoke 16 different languages and wrote 10 perfectly. So I was like, oh yeah, I want to speak different languages. So I studied multiple languages while I was in school. And I also did work in Arabic. So that was, again, because of Master Fard Muhammad. And then also I was like, in the How to Eat to Live, we were taught that if we eat properly, right, and think the right thoughts, we can live for basically however we want. Master Fard Muhammad's going to at least 14, live to at least 14. So I was thinking the same thing. So I'm like, I can have multiple careers. I don't have to just pick one, because, my life is going to be long. So don't limit yourself with what you're doing. And also, in the beginning, when I was going to school, I was inspired by that. But as I kind of got some more real world experience, I thought to myself, this world is going down. And so I have to prepare for a world that's coming in. And so because of that, I was like, you know what? I want to study some law while it's still good, because in the future, in the new world, I want to be one of those people that help shape the world of the future that I'll be living in, my children be living in, my grandchildren be living in. So I was kind of thinking in the future when I decided to change paths so I can give back to my nation even more.
Praise be to
And with
Allah.
that, I would like to leave you all.
Praise be
Is
to
that
Allah.
it for you? Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you, Sister Gabrielle. You are amazing. And I believe you are a great example today for our youth today, our college students, to show them that the true beauty of education is having the ability to just take a thought and an idea and make it a reality. And all that you did, you definitely made that a reality. So thank you today.